On home pages, you actually find the hypothesis that the Earth is flat, and of course all scientists, they're all supposedly in on the great flat Earth conspiracy. They just wouldn't tell us. The Earth supposedly isn't a sphere at all.
You funny little guy, Lesch, I honestly don't know if you're lying on purpose or just genuinely confused. Honestly, I really don't understand this situation right now. When would it have been stupid again to keep arguing with these idiots? But here, you've really and truly shot yourselves in the foot. Why is the Earth still here?
Why is the Earth still here?
Hey guys, Flo here. So what's this about? Peter has a YouTube channel called vegan&lecker. There, among other things, he shows how to make delicious hemp pancakes. But for some time now, he's also been making videos about the so-called flat Earth. That's because Peter is in fact a flat earther. That simply means he genuinely believes in a completely flat Earth. So, the widely accepted spherical Earth, the way we have always learned it in schools, is supposedly a grand deception and a complete lie. It doesn't exist. While that's strange, I assume that most of you are already familiar with Harald Lesch. He's that well-known TV physicist whom you often see appearing on ZDF. But he also occasionally creates YouTube videos where he discusses various interesting scientific topics. Recently, he also uploaded a video about the flat Earth.
Of course, this is actually an ideal topic to explore. First, what do we know about the formation of the Earth? Second, how could I easily determine that I'm on a sphere? Third, what did people in ancient times already know about whether the Earth is a sphere? And fourth, how did the idea of a flat Earth change over time into the concept of a sphere? Let's put it this way. Maybe just like this.
So therefore, Lesch assumes the Earth is indeed spherical. Apparently, the video consequently provoked Peter very much so that he created a number of posts specifically dealing with Harald Lesch. In doing so, he doesn't exactly use the friendliest tone, especially in the video descriptions. For example, Lesch is often insulted as an incompetent agitator or simply a rather verbose and talkative windbag. He says stupidity should be measured in Lesch units, and so on. Phew. Now, of course, I truly wonder why Peter actually feels so incredibly attacked by Lesch's actually quite friendly and well-intentioned video that he lashes out so aggressively like this. Why does he defend his belief in a flat Earth so passionately? Could it be that there's actually something to this flat Earth idea after all? I've watched Peter's videos.
The belief in a spherical Earth. What nonsense. These so-called experts, idiots make fools of themselves. Nonsense for the brainless. How stupid can you be? You are completely mentally handicapped. You bunch of clowns. The more educated you are, the more idiotic you become. Just like a spastic. Poor logic. I'm so dumb. Bingo, that's right. Yeah, no such thing as gravity. Crap for brains. Oh yeah, great. That makes sense. This stupidity. Yeah, I'm a doctor, I'm a certified engineer, I'm an academic. Those are the biggest fools. You fool. Such an idiot, always spouting nonsense with peasant cunning, the biggest pack of lying scum ever, the biggest liars and cheaters. And why is such crap always taught in school? Because what am I supposed to do with reading, writing, arithmetic, such refrigerated crap? You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist or otherwise out of your mind. No, that's a fact. The Earth is flat, period.
Alright. So, if you look carefully behind the deceptive facade of these charming and engaging videos, you basically find 5 main significant claims that are supposed to fully support the central idea of a flat Earth. Namely, that NASA completely fakes everything, there are absolutely no clear images of the Earth's curvature, the Earth simply cannot move, ships do not truly disappear behind the distant horizon, and sun rays do not actually hit the Earth in parallel. Let's take a much closer look at these important claims. Here we go.
And because the International Space Station, or ISS, exists in the vast expanse of outer space, NASA constantly has to put out content and propaganda like this, even on platforms such as YouTube, to create the distinct impression, oh, that the Earth is indeed round and that we are truly in space. And then, at that point, I just completely tune out. They're not even in space. It's all fake because they're actually in a diving pool and you can constantly see the air bubbles.
Claim 1. NASA lies in every single way, in all respects. Okay, so NASA must be lying. That's basically the foundation of flat Earth belief. Otherwise, you could just look at the images of the round Earth and the flat Earth theory would be done for. But whether NASA is really lying is almost impossible to prove or disprove. However, you can check the plausibility. Think about it. NASA has been around for many years and has tens of thousands of employees. Are they all supposed to be lying or have never slipped up? I mean, of course that's possible, but it's pretty unlikely. But in the case of these specific recordings of the so-called air bubbles, the situation is actually quite clear. I'd actually be more surprised if you didn't see any such particles. People are working up there, and where there's work being done, there are always some shavings. In zero gravity, the particles naturally float around. Take a look at this particular particle. Does that really look like an air bubble to you? And why does it just happen to be the same yellow color as the outer shell? Just looking at it from a practical perspective, to turn footage from the diving pool into space footage, you need a lot of CGI. You have to adjust the lighting effects frame by frame. Even with just 10 seconds of video, that would be hundreds of frames that would need to be edited. And yet, we're supposed to believe they just forgot about the air bubbles. Possible, but unlikely. And also, the fact that you hear breathing sounds similar to those from diving equipment isn't really surprising because, well, people are breathing. But what about these actual images of the Earth?
That's how this lying NASA presents itself. The ones who supposedly went to the moon, who have an ISS and only show fake pictures. There isn't a single real photo of the Earth. You have to check. It's all animations or paintings. Computer generated. There isn't a single photo of a round Earth. You can try searching, but you won't find anything.
Okay, so for example, this famous shot from Apollo 8 was supposedly created with CGI. That picture comes from an era when the most powerful computers had less power than a modern pocket calculator. Just saying. That was the peak of special effects technology at the time. So again, pretty unlikely here as well. But Peter takes it a step further. Not only is NASA supposedly lying, but also ESA, the Russians, the Chinese, the Japanese, and all private organizations involved in spaceflight. Apparently, space travel isn't possible at all.
Why are all space missions and all the numerous satellites orbiting our planet, as they consistently tell us, merely a global scam or an elaborate deception? Definitely. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
So, what's the problem?
How are rockets even supposed to fly in the vacuum of space? This is also such a spastic kind of logic. A rocket.
And why should a rocket not be able to fly in a vacuum?
That's a fact. That's just basic physics.
Well, now I'm very curious indeed.
Vacuum, airless space. You see here a light feather and a piece of metal, specifically a lead ball or a lead plate. They will fall at precisely the same speed in a vacuum, because it truly doesn't matter if it's 100 tons or just 1 gram.
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
So it truly doesn't matter how incredibly heavy something is, or whether something is actually powered.
Excuse me? What exactly does the fact that bodies of different mass fall at the same rate have to do with whether something is powered or not? That's just
another rather spastic kind of logic. The higher something rises, a rocket or any other vehicle, no matter how much force or thrust it actually has, the thinner the air gets and the less resistance there is consequently. And then at some point the propulsion just stops. Period.
No, not at all really. That applies to propellers or to jet engines that need to suck in the air for combustion. But rockets carry their own oxygen with them. That's the whole point. After all, Peter apparently accepts Newton's laws.
The principle of interaction is also known as the principle of actio and reactio, or simply actio equals reactio.
With a rocket in a vacuum, combustion gases are expelled. That's the action. And what then is the reaction? Exactly, a force in the opposite direction. So the rocket consistently moves forward, and absolutely no kind of simple toy experiment can fundamentally change that fact.
You can clearly see he carefully inflates the balloon, then utilizes a vacuum cleaner to simulate a complete vacuum. And what exactly happens then in this intriguing demonstration do you anticipate? You can see the air coming out, but the cart still stays put, standing there with the balloon. Makes sense.
Yeah, obviously. But this has absolutely nothing to do with a rocket in a vacuum, except that Staubsauger means vacuum in English. The vacuum cleaner draws in air from the surroundings and thus creates a force in the opposite direction on the cart. But in a vacuum, there is no air that could pull on a rocket. Makes sense? No, rockets work. That should be obvious to anyone with a bit of common sense. Besides, there are plenty of recordings of rockets.
All those rocket launches that supposedly happened, where satellites were sent up to tens of thousands of kilometers in altitude, they all follow this arc because they simply can't fly any higher.
Oh right, maybe the arc has more to do with the rocket aiming for an Earth orbit. An Earth orbit is parallel to the Earth's surface, so a rocket that starts off vertically has to align itself horizontally. That just happens to look like an arc. There are so many videos of rocket flights, even from amateurs. So where are the thousands of video recordings of rockets crashing back to the ground if they're all supposedly falling down? And where are the satellites supposed to come from? Everyone is familiar with satellite images from Google Earth, and everyone uses GPS in their navigation systems.
There are a few satellites, but not the way we imagine. Instead, they're sometimes lifted up by balloons. And then they stay more or less stationary until the balloon eventually bursts. And then the satellites are brought back down.
Aha, so for example, the Astra satellite is supposedly hanging from a balloon. That's why satellite TV goes out every day whenever the balloon bursts again. Yeah, right, sure. But the worst is yet to come for Peter. You can actually capture satellites yourself with a telescope and a camera. For example, an Australian photographer named Dylan O'Donnell took a photo of the moon with a Canon D with a strange object in the foreground. And Dylan isn't a NASA employee or anything like that at all. Anyone could potentially take that kind of amazing picture, even Peter. Wait a minute, that particular object looks exactly like the International Space Station. Even without a balloon, remarkably.
Yeah, what is that supposed to be? Oh no, this is starting to creep me out. Yeah, what is that supposed to be? Is that a mirage now?
So once again, it is clear that there is definitely space travel, and there are also many satellites. But whether NASA is actually lying about anything or not, this particular claim cannot be definitively proven. So, in the duel between the globe and the flat Earth, I would, with a lot of goodwill, call it a draw for now. So, let's move on to the next claim.
Here, with Felix Baumgartner, we see a relatively small Earth. Here, we also see another camera without a fisheye lens, because a fisheye lens could potentially fake the Earth being round. After all, it makes everything look round in the end. So let's take a look here, at the dog cam. The background, horizontal, absolutely horizontal.
Claim 2. There are absolutely no verifiable photos of the Earth's curvature. With a normal camera lens, the distant horizon actually appears completely flat. Peter is entirely right to ask the crucial question.
Where is the curvature? Where?
Where is the noticeable curvature then? A fisheye lens, by its very nature, creates a significant rounded distortion that has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the actual curvature of the Earth itself. Especially in footage taken from low altitudes, the Earth's curvature could never be as pronounced as it's often shown. But how strong is the curvature actually, assuming it exists at all? An ordinary camera typically has a field of view of 70 degrees. How high would you have to climb with such a camera to see the maximum curvature of a sphere? I worked this out using simple school mathematics.
The really, really tough part indeed. Mathematics.
With a spherical radius of about 6,400 kilometers and a field of view of 70 degrees, you would have to climb to over 4,700 kilometers to see the maximum curvature. At a height of a few meters, and even at several kilometers, the curvature should therefore be only minimal. But that does not mean it doesn't exist. With these shots there are, in principle, two problems. First, the contrast. The horizon is usually diffuse and not sharply defined. The second problem concerns our perception. A slight vertical deviation compared to a large horizontal expanse is quite difficult to detect. I'm not entirely sure if Peter is aware of this particular issue. He actually shows animations with completely incorrect proportions.
then you should also be able to see a curve on the horizon if you have about 100 km of clear view over the sea. But that's not the case. So even here, simple childlike logic fails, which totally overwhelms the globe model from Taste and Total.
Using a vacation photo, he takes this even further. Here, he calculated the vertical deviation and drew it in an extremely exaggerated size. Strange, he usually really enjoys calculating proportions so very much.
3 and then 4 and then bam! So in terms of its immense proportion, this truly is the colossal sun. Now I have meticulously compared the relative size of our Earth to the magnificent sun, providing a clear visual understanding.
So why didn't he calculate the proportion here? Alright, then let's do it ourselves. The red line is supposed to represent a distance of 100 kilometers, and the image is 960 pixels wide. A simple calculation shows that the vertical deviation of 98 meters doesn't even correspond to a single pixel in the image. So if represented correctly, the white arrows would have to be smaller than a pixel. Even the red line is 4 times as thick. So how could you make the curvature visible? The problem with the poor contrast can easily be fixed with a graphics program. There's a simple trick for the problem with the proportions. Here, I'm using Photoshop. But of course, you can do this with most other graphics programs as well. On the left, we have a straight horizon. On the right, a curved one. The idea is simply to scale the corresponding image horizontally to make it narrower. Let's start with the straight horizon. You can see that the horizon remains straight no matter how much you scale it. Now the same thing with the curved horizon. Here, the curvature is intensified by scaling it down horizontally. So, by scaling horizontally, straight lines remain straight and curved lines become even more pronounced. With this trick, we can easily check whether there is any curvature in the images of the Earth or not. Is the horizon really straight? Does it have to remain straight even after scaling? Let's test the whole thing with Peter's DocCam footage. First, I adjust the brightness and contrast so that the horizon is clearly visible. And now comes the crucial moment of truth. The image is meticulously scaled, and lo and behold, a distinct curvature unmistakably appears. How did that get in there? The image is from Peter, not from NASA.
Now I'm starting to get uneasy. Yeah, what is that? Is that a mirage now?
By the way, this particular trick also clearly shows that Peter used footage with a completely reversed fisheye effect here. That's one way to make the Earth look flat, of course.
Where is the curvature? Where?
So, where exactly is the curvature, please? Well, here it is. And these aren't just any ordinary recordings, these are Peter's very own recordings. Even in the photos from Peter's beach vacation, you can see a curvature. So the claim that there are absolutely no verifiable images of the Earth's curvature is definitely and demonstrably false. That's a very clear and undeniable point for the globe Earth. So those were indeed the first 2 significant claims that were made about the flat Earth. The other claims and the conclusion will come in the next part. I might even split it into 2 parts. Believe me, Peter has provided plenty more material.
Such refrigerated crap.
So, that was my very first video ever. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. What do you think about the flat Earth? Did I make a mistake somewhere? Let me know in the comments. Alright, take care.